Are you in an emotional immature relationship, or are you the one that is emotionally immature? Either way, listen in. Hi, I'm Carol Bettino, the author of the books Better Choices, Better Life, and Directions, Your Roadmap to Happiness. I'd like to start with talking about what emotional immaturity is all about and why it's so important when it comes to a relationship, whether it's a friendship or whether you're an adult child, in a family system, or whether you're a sibling, coworker, supervisor, whatever it may be. You need to recognize certain characteristics that show somebody is emotionally immature. Now, when we think about emotional immaturity, we're talking about a person's inability to experience and express their emotions appropriately and respectfully. It also is that they don't understand other people's emotions because they personalize them and overreact to them. So, the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to being emotionally immature is personalizing. That's when you become defensive, and I call that the adolescent brain syndrome. And that's because during that particular time, you act like an adolescent. If things don't go your way, you have a bit of a temper tantrum. If you get upset because somebody's confronting you about something you're doing wrong, you want to convince them that you're right, so you get defensive. Some people have an issue of always needing to be right. Now, the only thing I could tell you with this is what I've told many people. And that is, if you were crossing the street and the light was green on your side, but the car that was coming that had a red light was going fast, and your friend, partner, whatever, said to you, I don't want to cross right now. This car's looking like they're going fast. And you just said, nope, we're right. The light is green. I'm going. Are you coming with me? And you say no. And they continue to go. Boom! They get hit. They die. Well, I guess we could ask, should we or should we not put on their tombstone that they were right? Do you see, being right is not always very important. There is a time when you need to be right and you need to do certain things, and there are other times you just have to make a better choice before you make a decision. So people who are emotionally immature personalize everything, so they get defensive, and then they act like a kid. Teenagers think they know everything, and it's not until later in life they realize, no, they didn't. But at that time, they did. The other with emotional immaturity is that they don't control their emotions. Their emotions control them. So they don't just get worried about something. They panic over it. They feel anxious over it. Now, this is separate from the brain that a person suffers from anxiety. Because when you have an anxiety disorder, you don't necessarily control that your brain may automatically tell your body to freak out. And that's what causes your heart to race, your hands to shake, difficulty breathing. It's no different that if you were driving your car and a big ball came flying out in front of the car and you saw the kid running after it. Your brain in a split second would tell your body, slow down, put your foot on the brake, slam on your brake as hard as you can, swerve, whatever you have to do. But once you knew the kid was okay and you didn't hit him or her, and the one behind you didn't hit you, your brain tells your body everything is okay. With anxiety, sometimes the body doesn't get that second message. So it's important that you learn how to give yourself the message you need to give yourself, whether you have anxiety or whether it's just an emotion that's controlling you instead of you controlling it. The other is they blame everyone else and anything else. They're very externally oriented. In other words, what's going on outside is why they act or feel or think or do what they do. And the reality is, when you blame everyone else, you're not taking responsibility for your part. And if you're in a relationship, that gets old pretty quick, because we want to be with somebody who's mature enough to say, I made a mistake and I apologize. Or, you're right, I should not have done that. That wasn't in our best interest. How can we fix it? See, we eliminate the ability to find a solution to a problem when we get stuck in it. So people who are not emotionally mature don't take responsibility for their feelings or their actions. And when confronted, they don't like it. Now, you can also see in their behavior the way they react to things. I can't control what another person is going to think or feel. What I can control is how I react to them. So when a person reacts by being passive and they don't tell you how they feel, they don't let you know what they need or want, and they expect you to be a mind reader. Well, I taught psychology as an adjunct faculty for a couple of decades, and I can assure you, people could pass Psych 101, but nobody passes the psychology of knowing what everybody else thinks, because we don't. It's just impossible. So we need to recognize that if a person is passive and they don't express themselves, everybody failed mind reading 101. So it is the importance to be able to communicate. The aggressive person is the one that when you confront them on something they don't like, they become very intimidating. Some can be aggressive verbally, cursing you, putting you down, raising their voices, getting in your face where you feel intimidated, where you can't leave, putting their hand on a door, or throwing something, or putting their fist through a wall. Any one of those things are forms of aggression. The other is passive aggressive, and that's where they don't tell you really what they need and want, but you know they're upset. That's where they can become sarcastic, mentally abusive, or just give you the silent treatment. All of these are examples of emotionally immature people. And if you're in a relationship with an immature person, an emotionally immature person, you need to confront this as a problem and try to together find a solution. And sometimes solutions can be that maybe you need to be in counseling. The other is they have a tendency to gaslight. They'll turn it around and try to make you think like you're the one that's crazy, you're the one that's overreacting, and questioning you until you're the one that winds up apologizing for maybe even confronting the problem. The other is that they complain about the problem, but they do nothing to make it change. They do nothing to try to solve it, and that's because they don't take responsibility. Now, if these are the emotionally immature personalities, you can already figure out that the mature person who is emotionally mature is the opposite of all of those. They don't take things personally. They do control their emotions. They don't let others control them. They don't blame everyone else. They take responsibility. They're not passive or passive-aggressive or aggressive. They're assertive. They express their feelings openly and honestly and respectfully. And they don't complain about a problem. They look to solve it. Now, looking at some of the things we want to work on, if you are emotionally immature, or your partner is, then you can work on these together, is learn to express your emotions honestly and appropriately. That's really important. It's not always what you say, it's how you say it. So if I'm upset with you, don't use words like, "You always do this to me." "You never listen to me." "Every time I want to talk to you, you ignore me." So avoid words like "all of the time," "every time," "you never," "you always," because that makes the environment very easy for somebody to personalize and somebody to overreact and somebody to get stuck in the problem. Now, the other is if we're not going to personalize and we are going to become responsible for ourselves, emotionally mature people do not become responsible for other people's feelings. So if you're trying to make me feel angry, sad, hurt, whatever, the first thing in my head is my attitude. You don't have control over how I think or feel. I give you control, but that's one thing an emotionally mature person won't do. They don't give somebody else control to make them feel a certain way or act a certain way. So when somebody says, "Well, I wouldn't have done that if you did that," no, you had other options. It was the option you choose, and I'm not responsible for your choice. So you can see the difference in the mindset. Because they take responsibility for their emotions, they also take responsibility for their behavior. So their reaction, their response when confronted with a problem is they're more apt to look for a solution and try to own it, take responsibility for it, apologize if you need to, but they also know how to move on. They don't get stuck, they don't hold grudges, they let go. Um, and when you let go, remember the brain can't simultaneously do opposing things at this, well, obviously at the same time. It's the same as simultaneously. But the reality is you cannot let go of something if you're going to hold on to it. So if there was a problem in your past relationship, emotionally mature people do not keep bringing it up. They don't get stuck in it. And if they do, they need to be in counseling to work on that. Now, as a therapist, of course, I recommend counseling more often than not. But I got to tell you, the people who go to counseling are actually, if they're not emotionally mature when they come in, they definitely improve their emotional maturity because they begin to realize different things and different ways of handling them. Now, the next thing that I'd like to talk about is the importance of being positive and grateful for your life and being tolerant and accepting more things. Now, I will never accept abusive behavior, and I'll never tolerate being around people who are negative, complainers, unhappy, miserable, because it's not for me. So I have to find out who I want to hang around with. So it's like cleaning out a closet. Sometimes when you become more emotionally mature, you'll realize that there are certain people I don't want to be around anymore because they bring me down or they increase anxiety, increase depression. I have control over those things. They can't make that happen in me. But I realize that when I'm around them, this is how I feel. When that happens, that's when I know these are the people that I have to kind of clean out, just like you do in a closet, get rid of some of that stuff you don't wear anymore because you don't need them or it's just not you anymore. It's why when we're high schoolers, we don't want to hang around with junior highs kids. So it's a growth. And when we emotionally grow, so does the environment that we're in. So be positive, be grateful, be more acceptance and tolerance, and don't try to be perfect. People with emotional maturity don't expect to be perfect. There was only one person who walked this earth that was perfect. And although I have honor and respect, and truly my heart loves this one person, I can assure you he was not treated very well. Not at all. So I want to be like him in many ways, but one of the ways I know I'm not is perfect. The other is to be empathetic. I need to be empathetic of other people's emotions, but not codependent. In other words, I'm not responsible for them. Doing for them and being there for them is not supposed to make me better. It's supposed to be that I recognize they're responsible for their feelings, their behavior, and I don't try to change them. I don't try to fix them. I allow them to work on their own. I can be supportive. I can be empathetic, but I'm not going to be codependent. The other that I think is important is that we need to make a conscious choice to avoid toxic, negative, and drama-filled people. When you're at work, if you have people who sit around and start gossiping about somebody, who do you think they're going to gossip about when you're not around? So that should be a dead giveaway. Those are the people you don't want to be around. Now, I may work with them, I may like them, but I may choose not to go out with them after work. Or the other thing is that I may look at them and say, I don't want to discuss this, or when I see them all together, I tell them I'm busy, I don't have time right now. So you need to be able to recognize if you stay around toxic people, if you stay around negative people, and people who are constantly drama-filled, I got news for you. It's going to happen to you if it hasn't already. The other is I'd say journal. Journal some of the things that you know is emotionally immature about you. And then on the other side of that paper, write down things that you believe you can do to change that. Whether it's in your attitude, whether it's your thoughts, your feelings, whatever it is. And if you need to seek professional help. It's important. It's great to listen to podcasts and read papers and even take a class, but if you need the help, Never hesitate. You'd be surprised what you can learn. I'd like to end with one of my affirmational quotes. It says, I will not wait to make changes to better my life. I will take charge and lead the way to the life I want to live. Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with others and share it on your social media. And I love the comments, so please keep them coming. Have a great day and make better choices and avoid the drama.